Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Before proceeding with our program, we would like to take a moment to recognize our North Miami elected officials that are here with us. We have Mayor Philip Ganamay, the host for this afternoon. Now be sure to recognize the other officials as they arrive. Also, we'd like to recognize our North Miami City Administration. We have our City Manager, Teresa Lerolis. We have our City Attorney, Jeff P.H. Cazot. We have our North Miami CRA Executive Director, Gasha Carmo. We also have with us our North Miami Chief of Police, Larry Juriga. I'd like to also recognize our former mayor, Andre Pierre, and representing State Representative District of Wayne Joseph, Makina McKee. I'd like to also recognize Councilwoman representing District 3, Mary Estimate Irvin, and our Chief of Staff, Dr. Rochelle Lewis. Thank you all for joining us today. As you know, this business event is actually our 18th business luncheon in a series of mayor's business luncheons hosted by the city. This important luncheon series has been offered by the city since 2016. We are proud to have hosted over 1,500 attendees to date. Give yourselves a round of applause. Help strengthen and grow your business. The last quarterly business luncheon was hosted by Mayor Ganamay back in the fall of 2019. Things have been on hold due to the pandemic, but we are thrilled to be able to restart our mayor's luncheons and provide a place of information, engagement, and genuine support for the city's businesses. We also like to thank our North Miami CRA for sponsoring today's luncheon that was provided by Chef Dominique of KC Restaurant, a local North Miami business. Please remember to wash and sanitize your hands and keep yourself safe. We also ask that you not grab home because you guys are already cracked for lunch. We're a little bit behind schedule, but please enjoy your lunch prepared by Chef Dominique. I now have the pleasure to introduce Mr. John Dorcas, the North Miami Economic Development and Strategic Initiative Director.
Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon. My name is John Dorcas. I'm the Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives Director for the City of North Miami. I would like to welcome and say thank you again for attending the Mayor's first quarterly business luncheon for 2021. Today's theme is the economic focus of North Miami. The past year, the pandemic disrupted many markets around the world, but today we're excited to be able to restart the Mayor's quarterly luncheons and to get back to providing support to the North Miami businesses in this way, as the market is adjusting and recovering from the pandemic, prepared for the opportunities that lie ahead. Now, if this is your first time joining us, I would like to point out that the purpose of these luncheons is to create an opportunity to build a rapport between us, the city government, and you as the businesses within the city, and to share resources. Before I introduce the mayor, let me acknowledge again both the sponsors of today's event, and CRA for the meeting, and Baylor University for providing this beautiful event space to host this luncheon. At this time, let me introduce our mayor. He has served in the city of North Miami since 2013. He has served as District 3 mayor before he left in 2019. In May of this year, Ganamay was elected for a second term as together and looks forward to resuming these business luncheons. Please welcome your mayor, Philip Kennedy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been over 1.5 years since we did not have the opportunity to be together on a forum like this, the business luncheon that we have every quarter. On behalf of the city of North Miami, I want to thank you for joining us today for this special, I consider it special, quarterly luncheon where we honor new businesses, seasoned legacy businesses, or those aspiring to thrive into the great city of North Miami. We have been through ups and downs over the last year and a half. Since March 13, 2020, when we declared a state of emergency due to COVID-19, community redevelopment agencies to businesses and residents of the city of North Miami, over $5 million from the city's account has been economy to sustain small businesses and provide residents. Our established cornerstone legacy businesses has been around, especially in North Miami, has been around for quite some time, and some of them for decades. And have weathered millions of disruptions caused by hurricanes, economic recessions, and the current pandemic, COVID-19. But today, those businesses in the city of North Miami, those resilient businesses, those still as we look towards a full recovery and a return to normalcy, we will continue to create new grant programs relevant to the current times and conditions. We are and we will continue to be with the businesses in North Miami until this pandemic make it to the history book. I want to take this opportunity to thank Berry University for hosting us today. The first quarterly business luncheon was a beautiful campus. I invite you to visit it today or another day. And I also want to thank the administration, especially the CRA, for putting this together. And I want to thank everyone for coming. Please enjoy the rest of the day and feel free to ask questions about the city of North Miami and take notes during the Q&A. Again, on behalf of the city, I want to welcome you and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I would like to introduce today's keynote speaker, Mr. Kevin Crowder. Mr. Crowder is the principal of Business Flair Economic Development Solutions, which implements a unique trademark approach to economic development He is an IEDC certified economic developer whose primary areas of expertise are business and entrepreneurial assistance, private capital investment, market research, public-private partnership, redevelopment agency programs, government affairs, and niche revitalization drivers such as live music and craft breweries. He's conducted detailed economic, fiscal, and market analysis for business development, investments, and policy issues focused on successful implementation of strategies for economic growth. Mr. Crowder has used the business flair approach to help more than 30 Florida communities improve their economic conditions. From 1998 to 2013, Mr. Crowder worked for the City of Miami Beach and the Miami Beach Redevelopment Agency as the Director of Economic Development and Government Affairs, leading the city's economic development program and multi-jurisdictional lobbying efforts. And he began his economic development career in 1993 with the South Beach Business Improvement Districts in the South Beach Marketing Council. He is a former board member of the Florida Redevelopment Association and the Florida Council for Public-Private Partnership, and is a member of the Urban Land Institute, the International Council of Shopping Centers, the International Economic Development Council, the Florida Brewers Guild, and the American Legion. Mr. Crowder is also the president of the Business Flair Academy, which is a nonprofit organization providing economic development and redevelopment training for local elected officials, and he is the author of Governing for Economic Development, which is an elected official's guide to economic development. Mr. Crowder is a man of many talents. Please give Kevin Crowder a warm North Miami welcome as today's keynote speaker.
Thank you for that. That was a lot longer than that. Thank you, Mayor, for the invitation. Councilwoman, nice to see you. Thanks to everybody for being here, city staff, business people, residents. I'm going to do this seated. I'm recovering from a little bit of surgery, but I'm happy to be here and for this to be my first real public appearance, public event to come to. I'm going to talk about sort of the status of the North Miami economy, really looking at the last year and a half. Where were we right before the pandemic, what happened through the pandemic, and then where are we now? And then kind of move that into sort of opportunities. What are the things that have been happening besides the statistics here in North Miami? And opportunities is really important. And I think one thing I really like about this being sort of the first event that I have the opportunity to speak at is, although I'm a consultant, I'm an economic development consultant, you consult for a number of cities, including North Miami and North Miami CRA. This is especially important because North Miami is also the place that we decided and where we wanted to open our office. And so we're not just a consultant here in the city, we are a local business located here on 125th Street. We opened right before the pandemic, and then the beginning of this year, double our space. So we have a personal attachment here to this community. Just a little bit about our approach. We have a sort of unique approach that's evolved over many years in this field. If you're interested, I think we have a few of our books out on the table up front. And if we run out, there's always more. If you're interested, please take one of our cards. But it's sort of bookended on the front on sort of the data and really looking at the investment drivers. What are the things that drive investment decisions? What are the things that drive economic growth? Land, labor, capital, the markets, and regulation. As we're working with clients, as we're working with Miami, how can you influence each of these drivers realistically in a way that it will improve economic development, that it will give you the opportunity to improve quality of life? And then on the other end, we sort of move out of sort of the more data side of revitalization. And it's looking at understanding, okay, what's the most important thing to preserve for economic growth and improving quality of life in the community? We're seeing, because that, even understanding those hopes and dreams gives us some ideas to help a community on the path to revival. What are the most important things to expose? What do you have that if people only knew you had been to capitalize on again to improve the state of your economy, to bring economic growth and improve quality of life. So as we look at this, I'm going to give you just a few statistics looking at those different drivers at real estate and at labor and at the markets. But one thing to also keep in mind, and that's important to our approach, and it's sort of the thing that bridges the drivers to the opportunities, is that there's a difference between market demand and market potential. When you're looking at statistics and you're doing a market analysis, the market analysis is really just going to tell you where you were and how you got to where you are. It doesn't have to tell you where you can go. And that's where really market potential and the opportunities comes in. And you see this especially in CRAs, you see this especially in places that revitalize, because it's that potential that the entrepreneurs see. It's that potential that the pioneers who come into areas see and are able to build off of and really create the excitement and keep momentum going. As we look at some of the stats, and again, my cards are out there. If you're interested in more deep dives into data, feel free to reach out to me. We're not gonna get down in the weeds today. But the first thing is just starting with residential real estate. And there's a theme that I think you'll hear, and it even relates a little bit to what the mayor mentioned in talking about your business community, the legacy businesses you have here in the city, and businesses that have been here for a long time. But even in residential real estate, I think we're all aware of what's happening in the housing market and happening with housing prices. What we've seen, as you can see, this year, the price per square foot on residential real estate much higher than in the last few years. But when we look at the median sale price of housing in North Miami, you can see it started the year high and higher than 2020 and other years. But it's kind of come back to the 2020 levels here in North Miami. It is higher. So you're showing growth, but you're not showing necessarily unsustainable growth, and you're not showing growth in those prices that are disruptive to your local market and your community. And so one thing that it tells us is that we see when we look at North Miami is we see a real community. We see a place where people live, where people work, where people own and operate their businesses, where people play and entertain and recreate. And a real well-rounded community where you have local presence. You're not a tourist community who are subject to ups and downs and the whims of external markets and forces outside of your control. You are going to be subject to economic forces that you can't control. And the experience that you've gone through in being able to help your businesses through that and keep that authenticity you have is something that's really important. And I think we see that come through in a number of the statistics that we look at. When we look at retail real estate, we look at commercial real estate, you've had a lot of new retail space brought into your market over the last 5 years. You've had good absorption of that, but more importantly, over the last years. And Richmond's the rents are always going to go up and down and fluctuate. What we see when we look at this chart is we see a range of rent that you sometimes see in other markets. And I think that comes back to speaking to some of the stability that you have. You're always going to have businesses that close. But even absorbing the amount of space that you've absorbed, even through the pandemic, the rents have stayed. I think there's, pandemic, we have the efforts of the CRA with grants and working to help businesses. We have the PPP program in those local businesses. And we have landlords working with artists to keep them in their space. And so again, it's a stability that we see here in the market on the commercial side. So when we look at labor, obviously this is a graph that we see almost universally everywhere. We've seen, a little spike in the summer in the labor force. We had reopening or closing down and going back again. But kind of through that, the labor force has sort of stabilized. It's getting close to the pre-pandemic levels. Most importantly, what you see is that between the blue and the red lines, you see that gap between the two closing. And that's the blue being the overall labor force and the red being the employee. So that gap continues to close, and you can see on the right the continued decline of unemployment rate. One thing I'm sure you've all heard about is the labor challenges that businesses are having. Those are real, more substantial in some sectors than others. The big story about that is because of the extended and expanded unemployment benefits. And while that's one factor, it's one of several factors. factors. You have issues with access to childcare that is preventing some people from being able to come back into the labor force. You have hesitancy of some people to come back into the labor force because of fear of or concern of being a different one. I think this is one thing we've seen a lot in the food and beverage industry, which is having some labor issues. Where some industry an opportunity in another. And then another thing that we saw, and it's something that we see a lot of during the economic downturns, we saw this during the Great Recession, is you see an increase in entrepreneurship. People, it can be scary to make that leap, to jump from a paycheck into being self-employed and starting your own business. But when you've lost your job, when you're in an economic downturn, all of a sudden it may make sense to turn your side hustle into your main hustle. And so that is another thing. So those are all different things that come into the types. When we look at capital, the main thing we looked at here is to look at, okay, what has happened with property values? And this comes back and tells us the story again about you being this community, this real authentic community, again, where you live, you work, you operate your businesses. The two columns on the left, 2020 and 2021 property values. The third column is 2021, including new construction. Your property values went up 5.7%, including new construction 6.4%. You know, this is how you build wealth in a community and in your households. We saw similar type of property value growth in places like El Portal, Homestead, Hialeah, Miami Gardens, Virginia Gardens. Those communities that don't necessarily have that more local presence or the ability of that local presence to sustain their economies and have these sort of wilder swings, coastal communities with a lot of condominiums during the pandemic, communities that have an overwhelming reliance on outside customers, saw slight increases, 0.5%, maybe 1%. Some even saw slight declines in their property values. So I think, again, it speaks to this message of being this stable community, this real authentic community, that is a place that people want to be. It's a place where people want to own and operate businesses, a place to live. So we look for opportunities to continue to build on that for economic growth and to improve quality of life. Then another thing we look at is foot traffic. We look at foot traffic in downtowns and in destinations. And so we've been tracking the foot traffic in downtown North Miami, and you can see just like pretty much everywhere, come mid-March, you had that drop in foot traffic. But it didn't drop all the way. You still had people that needed to come to downtown North Miami. These are the numbers, these are weekly. And we've seen that growth and foot traffic now back to pre-pandemic levels in North Miami. And similar to the communities I talked about, when we look at those neighborhood destinations or communities, when we look at downtown, we see a similar trend, downtown Homestead. Look at Hialeah, look at some of these destinations. And when we compare that to a place like Duval Street, Atlantic Avenue and Delray Beach, Lincoln Road, Wynwood, you have the same trend, but it's much more pronounced, almost flatline at the bottom. And so again, it speaks to the foundation that you have on. And then the rebound this year that you can see in food and beverage sales in restaurant city right now. So then I'm going to transition. And so if you think about an investment, whether you're making, you're buying a home, you're going to open a business, you're going to develop or even something as simple as where you're going to invest your money to have dinner that night. You know, you can come back, you can look at the statistics, and you can look at all of the data, and everything can make sense, but at the end of the day, the sort of final decision to pull that trigger is going to be how you draw. That can be a challenge, especially when it comes to revitalization. A lot of research is what's in all communities, all over the country, is that there's three main things that connect people to their community, that connect people to the place. The first one is how a place looks and feels. The second is social activities, opportunities to engage, guide us as we look at opportunities in different places. And so when we look at first, preserve. You know, what to preserve? Well, one thing during the pandemic is housing affordability or attainability. They also introduced housing into your community that gives you the opportunity to preserve households and even legacy households. Because one thing that we also see in communities, especially that have more of an older housing stock, is as people through their lifetime, their housing preferences change. And many times they want to stay in their community, but the house is already transitioning. So the efforts that you've been working on and continue to work on to create that healthy mix of housing, that benefit of preserving their legacy households, and even opportunities for legacy residents to return to the city that might have left. On enhancement, this really goes back to one of those community connections, the importance of aesthetics, enhancements, how places that want to participate and be engaged here in North Miami. So improvements that you've been making, the improvements, the median and the new landscaping here in downtown along 125th Street, looking at new design concepts for Northwest 7th Avenue, looking at opportunities along West Dixie and your corridors, improving just the aesthetics out in the public realm through art. And you're very active in public art here in North Miami. It continues to create that positive aesthetic that has a positive impact when people are looking for opportunities. And even improving and enhancing things like your Pioneer Gateway and again those public aspects. And then there's the exposed, the one I mentioned. If people only knew that you had it, it would make a big difference. North Miami's done a lot of work trying to help restaurants, especially through the pandemic, with programs with one thing, the lower right is that even was exposed, and I know there's a that were on there is even exposing and communicating the desire of this community to have access to mass transit. And I know there's a number of you here that spoke to the county commission when we were having a discussion about station stops along the railroad. New breweries, got city, another brewery I believe coming in. You've got a great event with the North Miami Brew Fest, which but continue to grow. Again, those events that give people an opportunity to engage with each other, opportunity to showcase North Miami and everything we have to offer. And then this is a shot of the inside of Space Music there on West Dixie Highway. Another thing, when we look at exposed, what you have that maybe not everyone knows, this is one that we really kind of keyed in on, because if you're a musician, you come to North Miami to buy your instruments. You come to North Miami to get them repaired and serviced. You come to North Miami up a little further up Dixie to rehearse, and you come to North Miami to record. One thing, it's not as well known because you're not having the big performance venues and all of that happening. But we see it as something that's very authentic in the community. If more people knew about that and saw what opportunity that is, that might be something that can make a difference. Investments, again, this again connects back to those housing opportunities and that healthy housing base. And then this is where we really talk about what the CRA and the city has been working towards, and really taking downtown to the next level and being that downtown that we know the community wants, the downtown that gives opportunities to live downtown, to work businesses that are in the downtown. Opportunities to engage in enhanced art and cultural activities, special events. And really, one of the things that does is our last one is it leads to what can you capitalize on. Well, the last year, we've done a lot of public engagement about what downtown can be and those opportunities with this revitalized survey that we ran last year. Restaurants, shopping, art and culture, entertainment, look at opportunities as new housing comes online, whether it's in the downtown, in other areas here, or over in Solomia, to make sure that all of it. And I put the picture of the Amazon thing in here because, capitalizing development have been successful. Learning from those, because there are a lot of those good lessons out there. Being done to counter, say, online shopping and keep engagement for your local businesses. Create those experiences that surround shopping and those opportunities to provide things in a shopping environment. They can't get to restaurants, they can't get online. And again, that That's those social offers, those activities, opportunities to be with one another, and have that. That's what all about efforts to continue to take downtown to its next stage and create this real downtown destination for you. It's just one more thing that will help that and help give new opportunities and expand.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley, for the presentation. That was a lot of great information to share with us this afternoon. Part of today's luncheon, we have a panel made up of three of North Miami's brightest minds that make an impact on the city's economic development. Each of them will be sharing and discussing how their respective roles affect the city's economic position. Also today, there will be an opportunity, if we have enough time, for a Q&A. If you have any questions, hold on to those questions, and if we have enough time for those questions, you'll have an opportunity for those questions to be answered later on. To start the discussion, we have Rasha Kamal, which is the Executive Director of the North Miami Community Redevelopment Agency, working at the organization as it continues to eliminate conditions of blight that exist within the city of North Miami, revitalizing the city's physical, economic, educational, and social resources. Rasha was brought in as a consultant to guide the North Miami CRA's organizational in-house operations. Her accomplishments include reorganizing agency operations, updating the development plan, assisting numerous neighborhood businesses with grants, attracting new businesses such as Cafe Creme restaurant, and was part of a team that successfully negotiated a 29-year intermodal agreement with Miami-Dade County to extend the existence of the North Miami CRA to 2040. Ms. Kamal successfully launched the North Miami CRA's first ever branding campaign for downtown North Miami. Prior to her role in North Miami, Ms. Kamal was founding director of the Little Haiti Cultural Center, responsible for creation of operations, programming, policies, and procedures. Ms. Kamal is a graduate of Florida International University with a bachelor's of public administration as well as a master's of business administration. She is also a certified Florida redevelopment professional, and she is the vice chair of the Northwest 9th Street Board and a trustee of the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce.
For those of you that are with me at 110 this morning in City Hall, hello again. Thank you, Mayor, for down past 9 p.m. Everybody knows I'm in bed by 9 p.m. usually, but so thank you. Thank you for being here for our first quarter election. Can I get some technical assistance? I apologize. I think most of you know the North Miami CRA, what we do, and so on. But I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory. In some cases, also the audience. The North Miami CRA covers about 60% of the city's geographic boundaries. You can see the red boundaries, the red borders, and the colored shaded areas are the CRA areas and per district. So you can see all 4 districts and areas that we cover in the areas. So essentially, we cover about 60% of the city. We are able to provide incentives and grants and businesses along all of the corridors. And I've experienced because of the COVID-19, we were at a standstill and we're able to help as our traditional manner businesses and residents with relief. So for the residential program, we assisted with over $2 million in for the residents who actually lost their primarily in the multi-family homes where people who work in the hospitality industry at Miami Beach. When Miami Beach shut down, everybody lost their job. With the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce and the Haitian Chamber of Commerce, who was handling the applications for us, we're providing up to $4,000 to help for mortgage, rent, and utilities rent for those that are still in need. And after July 15th, money out of the funds. In business grants, we provided about $1.5 million for businesses. We created a jump start program, and essentially it was to help after the city was closed for months. We found that it was necessary to help existing businesses get back, to be able to pay their rent, their payroll, their utilities, so they can reopen and be able to operate and gainfully employed. Created this program. We also created a program for no delivers, and that's because, I don't know if you guys remember, but Miami-Dade County had imposed a no dining order for a while. So a lot of businesses and restaurants were losing out on opportunities because they were not able to transition for a takeout and delivery. So we were able to partner with Uber Eats and these other food delivery companies to help the local restaurants survive and to stay open. Traditionally, our grant programs are to offer rehabilitation programs for existing businesses. We do business attraction and extension grant program. Like Mr. Crowder mentioned, Lost City Brewing Company is one of the new businesses that we brought in. We offer capacity building and retention grant program if you're a small business and you've been in the community for a while. You need to acquire one-line equipment or you need to go through some kind of professional training. You can expand and increase the capacity of your business. We are there. We offer up to $7,500. Most recently, Stations by Walter. He's right here on 125th Street. We provided him with a $7,500 grant to buy a large printing equipment, which allowed him to do more printing faster and to produce more. Beautification and enhancement grant is $25,000, no match requirement. It's very good for small businesses that are looking for a simple facelift, or they're looking to improve the inside of the business for additional services. Most recently, we completed apart from the commercial grant programs, the investment we made throughout the community. So Sassafras was one of them. We did the facade, the exterior facade of it. And unfortunately, since we finished it during COVID, we were not able to do a ribbon cutting. So I'm taking this opportunity to show you, if you haven't been by the pool, this is what it looks like now. It's a beautiful facade. Moving forward, we're looking at opportunities that are going to be redeveloping not only our downtown, but also the major corridor along 125th Street. So we're looking at opportunities to redevelop the downtown with new public facilities, possibly a new city hall, police station, 700 residential units, new transit stop on 120 Miami-Dade County to ensure that they understand that the community wants to have access to other areas, not just in the plan. So essentially, you should be able to take the new right there, Councilwoman, that's coming up, the New York Miami Trolley for free. So those are other opportunities that we see that are necessary that we should invest in and that we're focusing on. Currently, we're doing two things to that area. One, the corridor slows down traffic. It helps so that you can actually try to transit less of an expressway, more of a walkable path. So we're looking at doing this and trying this model. The best part of this is that FDOT has actually the best people to say yes to, right? So the fact that they said yes, and so we're working on the design. We're going to put out another call to artists, and it's every 3 blocks along from 192 to 143rd to Northwest 7th Avenue. We're going to have painted crosswalks to help slow down the traffic and to beautify it in addition to the landscaping that we're doing. This is in addition to the zoning enhancements that were done by the city zoning department for the east side of Northwest 7th Avenue to allow us out. So we're looking to incentivize other developers to come and redevelop Northwest 7th Avenue as well with mixed-use affordable housing. Actually, the 1155 no meeting last night, their conditional use permit was 1155. So this is a great opportunity for investment. In addition to, it's a workforce housing project. It is But with this investment and with the grant that we're providing, not only will we be building over 350 workforce units, our investment is providing for 38 units will be earmarked for affordable housing throughout the life of the CRA, which means we reserve those for North Miami residents, City of North Miami employees, because we like them to move into the city and spend their paycheck into the city. And the tax revenues projected for this project is what's going to inject into the city, into the CRA office for us to reinvest and to help into the other communities. And the other one is residences at NOMI. This one is 175 unit mixed use. It's right in downtown, right behind the Bank of America building on Northeast 999 and 24th Street. Again, the relationship there is providing them with a grant to pay for the infrastructure and a tax rebate, and we will get 50%, about 27 units, again, for affordable housing. So in a few years, by the time this is built, I will be eligible to actually have an apartment here. So I'll be able to come and patronize it. And one of the questions I think somebody had asked me one time was like, well, you know, 55 and older, you're going to have to downtown. And Mrs. Wilson will, you know, confirm. Usually that's what you need. You need that generation that has more flexibility, more spending dollars to come and patronize downtown during the day and to help with the market and the economy. So it's not, we're not looking at seniors. It's not a, I was asked if this was an ALF. No, this is 55 and over. We, in 2024, this is being 2024. I know. And lastly, this is the leadership of Council and Estimator. We have launched our arts program. The first phase of it was at the Griffin Park. We go to utility boxes. We also fund the MOPA Art on the Plaza series, and that was really because usually we help enhance the Jazz at MOPA, and with COVID, since that wasn't happening, we needed to find ways to get people to come out and see art and experience activities. So this is the first one. We just put out an art. This is Pioneer Boulevard. I know Kevin had shown you a picture of what it was to work at. Right now, if you go to Pioneer Boulevard, it has had a huge facelift. Right? We repaired the fountain. The lights are working. Right, Sarah? Yes. The fountain is beautiful. We have these beautiful book benches that you can actually sit on. Right? This art, the trash cans, and even the fountain, the frog fountain, we've renovated it as well. And we're infusing it with art throughout the whole corridor. This is just phase one. Phase two, we're going to have a walkway path through the median, and we actually put out a call to artists to turn some of the medians into for sculpture gardens. Lastly, like I said, we just wrapped up 2 call to artists, and we did get 62 submissions, which is incredible. Because I remember when we started this, we had about 20 submissions for the utility box. And that's like March and April. Now, because people see that, you know, we are serious in investing in art throughout the community, we got 62 submissions, and we're going through the process right now. So essentially, the URAB NOMI section, you're going to see that any utility box that's on any major corridor within the CRA, I just want to emphasize, within the CRA, they will be wrapped with beautiful new art, and you're going to start seeing happening in phases. The other one is the sculpture garden, and once that's done, we will let everybody know so you can come and experience 6th Avenue all the way down to the West Dixie. It's a very long corridor. Park, where the development is underutilized median, and the council, when we're looking at repairing the fountain and trying to fix what was already broken, she was very interested in finding ways for us to activate these medians to make it easier for the community to come and experience art and rest, because it does help your mental. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Tanya Wilson, who is an accomplished urban planner with over 20 years of public sector experience at the city, county, and regional agency levels. She She is a self-motivated professional with an infectious passion for civic engagement and community development. Tanya currently serves as the Director of Community Planning and Development for the City of North Miami, where she oversees the city's planning, zoning, sustainability, and the economic development initiatives. Tanya received, as Director, Tanya received the prestigious Public Servant Award of Excellence in Community Development, a bachelor's degree from Florida Atlantic University in Economics, and achieved her master's in urban planning from the University of Maryland. She is an AICP certified planner, a member of the American Planning Association, and an Urban Planning Institute in Development. Also, I'd like to add that Ms. Wilson is also a published author of the book Living the Mag Thriving Beyond Seasons of Adversity. Please welcome Tanya Wilson.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, Northland. Good afternoon, Northland. Wonderful. I'm Tanya Wilson, and I get all these. So every color really set the stage in terms of a spotlight and overview of what's happening in Northland's economy and funds over the last several years. From my presentation, I'm looking at Miami's zoning and land use frontier to allow for development for the last 10 years. So, with a series of presentations, just to show you an example of the types of developments that we did in this. He mentioned the fact that one of the key ways for a city to grow is to add more taxes. In order to activate those ad valorem taxes, the revenue, it comes from redevelopment. So with all the things we've heard today about, so starting out with the west side of the city, we have the kids' school. This is located on a 9-acre parcel within the city that's been dormant for at least the last 40 years. So we have a new investor that's coming looking to activate that space with a public charter school. There's also going to be opportunities for a 24-unit apartment complex part of that development. But the thing I wanted to focus on is in terms of the economic impact from having this activated property within the city. So we're projecting over 404 short-term direct and indirect jobs to be created from that development, $21 million in terms of the construction and investments in wages and expenditure. The permanent jobs that we anticipate being created from this project, 107 permanent jobs. And then looking down now in terms of impact fees and permitting generated from that, $592,000 just from this one project. We actually had this on our agenda at last night's council meeting, I should say this morning. Council meeting. So this is in the downtown district. It's a significant catalytic project, but we've not had any activity in the downtown within the last 50 years. So this is the first coming off the ground in terms of new constructions that will be coming in soon in the downtown district. So it's located at 475 Northeast 125th Street. It's 28 units in total. Economic impact looking at 69 short-term construction jobs. In terms of permanent jobs being created from it, there's a small retail component, 445 square feet of commercial space that's been anticipated, 2 jobs created out of that. If you focus now on the ad valorem portion, from this one project, we're anticipating over $100,000 in annual ad valorem taxes being added to the city's tax base. This one also was on last night's agenda, the leader development for conditional use permits. We're anticipating bringing in over 828 units. This is closer into the industrial district. There's a new land use plan amendment that was done 2 years ago, actually, for the special development TOD area. And this is then the first project that we're seeing as a result of that land use plan amendments and rezoning. So there is no mystery in terms of what we can do with the land use of the city when we make these kind of strategic moves to activate what was once a dormant area of the city that had no redevelopment happening over the last 50 years. Within 2 years of us making those land use changes, we've already seen the market responding. As a result of this proposed proposed development, we're anticipating over 2,000 short-term construction jobs. In the way of permanent jobs, this is a mixed-use project. We're anticipating over 133 permanent jobs being generated, wages in the spectrum of $3.8 million. Looking at the retail and restaurant sales, we're anticipating over $10 million generated in that area. For the permit and impact fees coming into the city, over $3 million. And then for the annual ad valorem taxes, one project is anticipated to add over $1 million in annual ad valorem revenue to the city's tax base. And I don't know if I mentioned that just before, but it's that intersection of Northeast 151st and Northeast 20th Avenue in the city of North. This one also is an activation of a property that you may know under another name, Portofino. This portion that's coming in is called Alero. That project's been around since 1973. The conditional use permit was not fully built up. So the developer is back in looking to activate the remaining portions of that site. We have done land use plan amendments and changed the zoning on that site to a mixed-use designation with a higher density. So it had a lower density before, and in changing the density of the site, we had an opportunity to really build out the site where it was dormant before. So we're anticipating from this project to add an additional 516 apartment units with a 90-story structure. In terms of the short-term jobs, we're anticipating bringing in over 1,500 short-term jobs. The wages, $83 million generated just for wages. For the full-time jobs on that property, we're anticipating generating an additional 18 full-time jobs. The ad valorem tax portion that we're focusing on is bringing in an additional 831,550 annual ad valorem taxes to North Miami's tax base. Again, the impact and development fees that are anticipated from this project is in the tune of $2 million. 1155 Nomi was on last night's agenda as well. We're starting to see a pattern of many developments popping up in the downtown district and within the overlay areas. This is not organic and it's not accidental. It's the strategic efforts of the mayor and council and city staff over the last 10 years to identify major corridors within the city, to identify opportunities for station area redevelopment. And we're starting to see that the market is responding with proper density, proper transition standards that you're putting in your code, the opportunity for flexible uses. You know, in some areas, residential density wasn't allowed at all. In some of the areas, some of the uses were too restricted. And we found in the last 10 years in making those adjustments that the city has become open to redevelopment that is much more marketable. So this one for 1155 Nomi anticipates bringing in over 560 unit mixed-use projects with a retail component. So we have 1,100 square feet of retail that's anticipated again. You see that there are short-term jobs that are generated for the local economy, 828 short-term jobs. In the way of full-time jobs, generating 8 full-time jobs, primarily in the retail component of this project. The annual ad valorem tax anticipated from this project is over $463,200 annual revenue that's added to the city's tax base. The impact fees and development fees are significant as well, bringing over $1 million worth of impact fee and development fee into the city. Allure, this one was recently approved, I would say about a month ago. This property is an interesting site as well. It was an old parking lot within the city that really had no activation and no purpose for over 30 years. The city was able to enter into a lease agreement with a private developer in order to create a mixed-use project. They'll be receiving some CRE financing assistance to activate that project as well. It's anticipated to bring in over 360 residential units within the city. Over 8,000 to 20,000 square feet of commercial retail, and 550 parking spaces. So this is going to be a mixed-use project within that northern sector of the city. The address for this one is 1810 Northeast 146th Street. We're anticipating an additional ad valorem tax into the city of $640,000 annual revenue added to North Miami's tax base. We're just giving you also a snapshot of what's happening on the Scolia property. Many people have inquired about that with the pandemic again, Solomon is still alive. I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely still alive and moving forward. We've had several submittals in our office for DRC site plan review. This one is for a mixed-use building that's coming in with 187 rental apartments. There's a retail portion as well coming in for over 9,830 square feet of retail. We call this one the corner parcel, so you'll see it at the corner of Biscayne Boulevard and 151st Street. And this just gives you an example of what's happening. So normally this market is pretty robust in terms of the offerings. You know, we have some of our smaller residential apartments that are being offered around the station area within the downtown district. The industrial district is being activated, but you also see that we have luxury units and other offerings that are there. You always want a market that's very diverse and very dynamic in terms of the types of real estate that you're able to offer. Because of course, and Rasha said it before, the residential drives the retail. The types of residential and the income earners that you have drives the types of retail that you get. If you talk to ICSC or any economic professional, they will tell you if you see a lot of dollar stores and thrift stores and storage facilities in your city, it's because you have a cluster of residential that will attract that type of retail market. So if your city is intentional about getting other higher end type retailers, you have to have a mix of residential types. It's not, again, organic, it's strategic in terms of what you'd like to see within your city. So looking at Solomia, we also have another phase coming in called Villa Laguana. This one is going to add an additional 187 rental apartment units, 9,830 square feet of retail space on the property. So Solomia definitely is still moving forward. We're seeing a lot of site plan submittals. They have some of them are delayed in 2020, like most other developers, but we're definitely seeing a robust movement forward with that development and many of the developments within the city. The UN Medical Center as well has been under review. That site plan has already been approved. So right now they're in the building permit stage, so that will be coming off the ground very quickly. This is going to be a game changer for North Miami. Almost every specialist you can think of, if you're familiar with the facility that's down in Coral Gables, this will be a sister site, but even on a higher level in terms of the types of offerings. Every specialist from a neurologist, we think of a podiatrist, things you need for your heart, for cardiologists. So you're talking about top-notch specialists that will have other associated staff. From a workforce standpoint, this is probably one of the biggest impacts we'll have to North Miami's workforce. You know, have opportunities for folks to get jobs that are paid at a higher rate, jobs that will require specialists. So we've been working very closely with the UN team in terms of having some types of job fairs and making sure that there's local hiring once this thing gets off the ground. Many of the developers have recognized the value of what's going to be coming in with this medical center, and they've already started looking for real estate that's within a certain 5-mile radius to be able to have some kind of complementing businesses that can benefit from this facility that's coming. So this is definitely a project to watch. We're looking to see it move through the building permit process very quickly between this year and next year. And this just a glimpse, an aerial view so you get an idea of what the facility will look like. It's a 23-hour type of medical facility, so it's not considered a full-fledged hospital. From a zoning standpoint, if it's more than 24 hours, you would deem it as a hospital. But for every intent and purpose, it functions like a hospital. You're going to be having major surgeries there, all the specialists that you'll be able to see all the way down at the University of Miami, you can now see them in North Miami. You just don't have that 24-hour stay. So a lot of hotels can benefit from this type of facility. Where many of them are already acquiring, we're going to be buying North Miami, so you can benefit from the fact that this short-term hospital is here, they don't have a long-term stay. So that's another market that we're looking at that's being revived in terms of the hotel stay opportunities that are there. Yes, I think so. The corner parcel. So we have at least 3 phases of that facility right now. We're Solomia that are under review, 3 completely different phases that are moving forward simultaneously. It's very exciting to be able to see all the sectors of the city activated from east to west. North Miami definitely is a city to focus on right now. Redevelopment is not So I think this is the showstopper slide for me. This kind of gives you a kaleidoscope of everything that's going on. Going back to Mr. Crowder's comment before, the Lagos test of a city that is growing is a city that's redeveloping. If you have a city that's struggling and not able to balance its budget in a city with deficit issues, you have to focus on redevelopment as an opportunity to generate revenue. It's the science of land use and zoning. So looking at this page, this is literally your budget sheet. It's figuring out moving forward how to keep your city solvent. It's looking at the dollars and looking at the numbers to determine what you have coming down the pipe. So we've broken it up into districts, but what's important overall in looking at the numbers is the aggregate. What does this all translate into? So we don't feel like District 1, that has most of the redevelopment that we're seeing in the city, we can anticipate bringing in over $2.6 million in annual ad valorem tax as a result of the developments that I just shared with you. And looking at the jobs that will be generated, you already see the figure that are over 3,000 jobs that are going to be generated as a result. Retail and beverage sector, there's going to be an impact over $60 million being infused through that sector. District 2 as well, looking at the ad valorem taxes, bringing in over $463,200 worth of ad valorem taxes. You see the job impacts that are being made all the way down to District 3, the same with the ad valorem tax and the sum totals that you see overall for the cities that we have quite a lion's share of redevelopment that is happening, quite a lion's share of possibilities of revenues that are being generated. And beyond just the revenues, it's an opportunity for residents themselves to have more workforce opening up within the city of a higher quality, not just at the low income range, but to have professional jobs that will be created. Right now, healthcare is a data sector that's of a focus, particularly because of the pandemic. I do believe that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Oftentimes, when crises do hit us, there are some cities that recoil and they bury their heads in the sand. Our Miami hasn't done that. To the credit of the mayor and council, there's been quite a bit of investment in workforce development, in the sector of healthcare, making sure that folks are trained, not just in contact tracing, but in high demand fields to make sure that our residents are marketable and there's a demand and an interest in North Miami's residents when these jobs do become available. So I hope you learned a little bit more about what's in the pipeline, what's happened. If there are developers here that have an interest in investing in North Miami, my card is on the table at the back. If you need to set up some type of pre-app meeting or have zoning discussion with us, we are open and ready for redevelopment and available for those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for our presentation. Now I would like to introduce Burrow Estrada, who is the purchasing director for the city of North Miami since 2015. Burrow has almost 30 years of experience in the public sector. Under Mr. Estrada's leadership, the purchasing department's emphasis has been to be responsive to stakeholders, adhere to professional standards, and focusing on fair and diverse competition in the procurement of goods and services for the city. Among the many projects awarded during his tenure is the selection and award of the architectural services contract for the new Academy Park North Recreational Complex, the new Enterprise Resource Planning Platform for the city, the North Miami CRA, and the new franchise agreement for citywide collection of residential and commercial solid waste services. Mr. Estrada is a certified public procurement officer, which represents the highest standard of competency for procurement professionals. He is an active member of the National Institute of Government and Purchasing, the premier industry association for procurement professionals, as well as their local chapters, the Southeast Florida chapter and the Greater Miami chapter of MIGP. Prior to coming on board with the city of North Miami, Mr. Estrada worked many years for the Miami-Dade County School District, ultimately rising to the position of Director of Contract Negotiations for the District's Office of Capital Improvement Projects, and before that he also for Department of Business and Professional Regulation as a compliance officer. Mrs. Estrada is a graduate of University of Miami Law School, and has a bachelor's degree in Business Administration from North Southeastern University. Please welcome Alberta Estrada.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me without the, can you all hear me without the microphone? No? Okay, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's a tough act to follow for my two colleagues. I said to John, maybe you should put me first, because I know I'll be overshadowed. But that's okay. I will let them always take the spotlight, because what we do for the city is really behind the scenes. Our role is to be the purchasing agent, not only for the city of Miami, the city of North Miami, but as well for the CRA. So we sort of have two masters, if you will. But they say you can only serve one master. We purchase everything for the city, from widgets to water mains. It was interesting because earlier during Mr. Kevin Crowder's presentation, he touched upon sort of the role of public-private partnerships and sort of a new concept that governments are looking at in terms of providing alternative sources of funding for major initiatives and so forth. But it's been my experience, and I've been at this for several years, that we already have public-private partnerships. In other words, the city could not do what it does, or the CRA could not do what it does without the assistance and without the collaboration of the private sector. So I'm going to give you a little overview of what it is that we do, what our role is for the city of North Miami and the CRA. Okay. So essentially, what is the mission? What is our role for the city of North Miami and the CRA? So we are primarily responsible to procure all the goods and services, again, for both agencies. According to the city's code of ordinances, statutes, and federal law. Now, what does that mean? That means that our administration, our city administration, city manager, executive director, our elected officials, they rely on us to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we recommend in terms of purchases and procurement for the city, is in compliance with the applicable codes, state laws, and federal laws. They're trusting us, if you will. It's very important. So obviously, what we do has to withstand a very high threshold. In the next paragraph, we're committed to carrying out the needs of the city in a timely, cost-effective manner, with the ultimate goal of helping the city's administration providing quality service to the community we serve. Throughout the discussion, both Rasha and Tanya, there's a lot of talk, and obviously Kevin's too, about economic development and economic growth and redevelopment throughout the city. Well, you really can't have that kind of economic development or redevelopment unless the city administration, CR administration, is able to provide quality services to the community, first-class services to the community, including obviously the need for infrastructure, which is also going to be very important when a lot of these projects are coming online. So obviously, our role is to make sure that those type of services are provided to the administration and to the community that we serve. We're also dedicated to preserving the public's trust by adhering to the highest professional standards and ensuring fair competition. I don't think that any of us in government can really do our jobs well and continue to do it well without the public's trust. In other words, if you don't have the public trusting and respecting what you're doing, then really you're not going to be able to perform to the highest standard. And one of the things I'm most proudest that in my almost 6 years of service with the City of North Miami and the CRA, and over 300 solicitations, we have yet to have any of those be challenged in any way or protest being submitted. So I like to think that what we're doing is working. Lastly, our department strives to promote contracting opportunities to small disadvantaged firms with an emphasis on local businesses within the City of North Miami. Quite simply, what that means is that it is the general philosophy of our administration and the council members is to promote opportunities for disadvantaged and small firms, and there is a competitive advantage, which I'll discuss later, to businesses that are located within the City of North Miami that wish to do business with either the city or the CRA. So that is the general philosophy of the city. I just wanted to give you, and this is just a snapshot of some projections for this fiscal year in terms of procurement dollars. P-card purchases are really relatively small purchases that are used through a procurement card. Our value of new solicitations is estimated at a little bit over $36 million. Our current ongoing continuing contracts and other purchases is a little bit over $17 million. So we have a total projected purchasing dollar value of over $54 million. And again, that's $54 million that is going out to the private sector for all types of things, for all types of supplies, equipment, services. Those are private sector dollars coming from the city and from the North Miami CRA. So, how do you do business with the city? So, you're a vendor and you might be interested in offering your services, goods, etc. So, the first thing you have to become familiar with are the channels of information. Where do I get information and what's available? So, our department posts all of our solicitations on our website, as well as an online purchasing marketplace named the Demand Star. Also, vendors can sign up for free text and email alerts that are issued by our department. You can just go on our webpage and sign up for those alerts, and you'll be notified of either current or upcoming solicitations. In addition, our solicitation notices are also advertised in the Daily Business Review, and we also provide copies to the Greater North Miami Chamber of Commerce, which we would hope that they will share with their membership. We have information there on the city's website, as well as the Master. We also have a guide, a vendor guide, that we would encourage you to be familiar with. And in fact, there are copies of the guide outside up front. If you'd like to pick one up, all of this information is included in the vendor guide. So this is how, if you're interested and you want to do business with the city or with the CRA, those are the first steps. In addition to that, our offices are always open. You can contact our office. You can either call us at 305-895-9886. And again, this information is on the guide. Or you can email us, purchasing at northmiamifl.gov. We're located on the third floor of City Hall, room 303. So we always welcome any questions, any interest that you have in offering your services. We're always available to speak with you. I mentioned earlier about the local business preference. The City of North Miami has a local vendor preference orders. And essentially what it does is that it gives a preference. It's a competitive advantage and preference to local firms. It is a 10% preference that's provided to the firms, but there are criteria that you have to qualify and you have to be eligible. that criteria is, and they're listed right there. You must have a current business tax receipt and certificate of use that was issued no less than 12 months before the particular solicitation that you're interested in. You have to have a physical address located within the city of North Miami. And it also has to be performing business as related to the goods and services that you're interested in providing. In other words, you can't be running a flower shop and propose to install a water meter, right? Lastly, if you subcontract to a local firm, you can also subcontract to a city of North Miami local vendor. As long as you subcontract 20% of the contract to that local vendor, you will also get the local business preference. So there's, again, more than one way to skin the cat, as I said. So you just have to become familiar with it. And if you have any questions, again, all this information it's on our vendor guide, or if you just want to follow up, you can contact us. We'll be glad to sit with you and go through this. Lastly, I just wanted to give you just a sample of some of the various solicitations. Some of them are current, some of them are coming up. And it runs again for all kinds of services. So we've got the downtown municipal complex development that I think Rasha touched upon and also Kevin talked upon. That is a major initiative that the city is interested in putting forward. City in collaboration with the CRA, I should say, and we have to review this. In addition, also, and I think Ross also touched upon this, the Nomi Express trolley operation management contract. Last night at our council meeting, also in our CRA meeting, both the CRA board and the city council, led by our mayor, approved the purchase of trolleys for this Nomi Express, for our Nomi Express program. But we will be issuing a solicitation for the operation and management of that. So if you're interested in that, again, reach out to us and talk about that. There's a new community center and park that's being planned and we'll be putting out at Solomia. We're trying to talk about all of the developments that's going on over at Solomia. There's a Canton Park project. It's a project that's already been commissioned for the architect, but the construction of that should start within the next year or so. It is a major new park and recreational complex, which has been spearheaded again by our mayor. And it's going to be a signature project for the city. There's a stable center beautification project. There are several infrastructure type projects that I mentioned about, improvements to our water treatment plant, pump station, water main enforcement projects, street improvements and surfacing, curb contracts, and so forth. So there's a lot of infrastructure improvements that are going on in the city of North Miami. So if you're interested in providing services, let us know. We also have a solicitation out for independent auditing services. So if you have to be able to provide that service, we have a solicitation out. We will be putting out shortly a solicitation for banking services. So if anybody's interested for banking services for the city. We have a housing utilization construction contract which was recently issued and awarded to some contractors, a small list of contractors, through the CRA, but we fully intend and plan to go out and to solicit more contractors who would be interested in doing some housing rehabilitation construction contracts or under the CRA program. We have our solicitation for our services. And last but not least, we'll be putting out solicitation for marketing and public relations services if you are in that line of work. So that just gives you an overall idea, essentially kind of what we do. I hope I didn't put anyone to sleep, but if you have any questions, again, we're available. The third floor of City Hall. Please pick up a copy of the vendor guide on your way out if you're interested. All of this information we want to do is there, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alberto, for that presentation. Alberto concludes our presenters for today. If I can ask everybody to please give a round of this time we have a few minutes to take a few questions. So if anyone has any questions for either Mr. Crowder or any of the panelists up here, please raise your hand. If you need a microphone, I'll bring the microphone over to you. We only have one microphone. So at this time, we'll take questions.
If you can speak about what the city is three about the city person and also about the person. My question is, has there been any question or connection with the bright line? With the bright line to be constructed here in the city of North Miami? Normally around the railroad station by the intersection of 125th Street to 123rd Street.
You have a question?
So we have big conversations with the county regarding the bright line station. North Miami has been selected for two locations actually. At 123rd Street, the FMC line as well as 154th Street. Particularly the interest for us was in creating TOD districts there. So that was attractive to the bright line county that the city had a concentrated area for to greater cities and heights. That was intentionally done by the mayor and council to give the city a competitive advantage. So we would be considered as one of the possible station areas. So thankfully we were selected for those two spots. And right now they're in negotiations or conversations looking at the environmental assessment provider.
Thank you.
Guys, if we could try to be as quiet as possible. We have one microphone so we can hear the questions.
I just want to build on her question with transit in general in the city. I mean, I know you guys know that I've been working hard on advocating transit in general, but we have the plans there for mobility hubs, and we have all of the ideas, good ideas behind creating infrastructure that goes beyond the car. And I know you guys are constantly thinking about it, and I hope that our electeds, as we move to budget season, start to really put some time and energy into implementing the things that are going to make transit better in our community by getting people out. So, let's double down on making sure the bike lanes we've got plans get built out, and we also get that trolley, reestablished on serving us to the best ability. And then finally, when it comes to transit, I'm really concerned that as we start to develop some of these bigger projects, that the roadway that we have currently will not suit the additional residents that we have coming in. I'm hoping that we have some answers to that. Do you guys have an idea of the kind of plan we have, to maybe expand development 16th Avenue and Penny North, or any upgrade to Dixie Highway, changes that we might make in areas of the city that will be heavily impacted by the additional residents that are going to be coming to follow the infrastructure.
So in terms of the infrastructural needs for the city, we do have a capital improvement plan. Any kind of projections? Can you hear me?
I think.
Yeah, this is as low as it can get. So I need people to quiet so you can hear. So I was saying that the city does have a capital improvement plan. So any kind of infrastructure assessments or needs or any budgeting that has to be done would need to be listed in that capital improvement plan. So it's moving forward, there will be some type of timeline in terms of when those improvements can be done and that the budgeting can be put in place to make it possible. So certainly I know our public director is here and can speak to the types of projects we already have in there and the possibility of doing additional assessments as we continue to move forward with the new growth that's anticipated.
Anybody have maybe we have time for one more question?
After this question, Kevin, and hopefully in the future, the company becomes the best practice. Is there any place in the U.S. that considered best practice that things get done right, with some planning, some projects coming in, any place that you looked at, so if you do it this way, you'll get it done right long term?
I think there's a number. I think one place that's sort of one of the benchmarks for doing this right, goes back a lot, is Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where you see kind of all the elements that need to come together. You see the leadership from the political side and starting down now. You see the skills in the different agencies and professional staff that needs to be involved. And then you see a very engaged business community, investment community, that can seize the potential, not just where they were. And so all those things come together, and really understanding, when you do look at those sort of places that did it right, like at Charleston, there's some neighborhoods, some places in Colorado that have done that, but you know what I'm talking about, I can't think of the city. But at the end of the day, what you see a balance of three things that need to come together. I think this goes to some of what Tony was talking about also. And there's no magic combination. Each individual location has a balance. You need three things to happen. You need financial and market feasibility for the private sector. You need regulatory efficiency that matches that, still protecting quality of life coast. And then you need identity and brands. When those three things come together in the right balance is when you get successful. If you think about it, that's the way that communities that have been successful have revitalized. Even the way that businesses and entrepreneurs are able to be successful as well in their approach. And so, but Charleston is one of the ones that we really look to. Here in Florida, a place like the park has done it very well. We're a good Florida example. I think that, another one was the one that's in Atlantic Avenue, Delray Beach. More than Atlantic Avenue. The Delray Beach CRA, which is more than Atlantic Avenue, which includes Pioneer Village, it includes a lot of different things. And while they had some initial successes, I think it did still take them a while to kind of figure out what that right balance was, to kind of build more authenticity and really be a redevelopment story that was really forward.
Thank you very much for that. So now, on behalf of the city of North Miami and the mayor, I would like to say thank you again for attending today's luncheon, and we look forward again to seeing you at the mayor's next year's business luncheon.